When you've had a long week and want to mix it up with something new and interesting to eat, try Blue Apron's 2 or 4 serving menu plans with those hard-to-find ingredients sure to spice up your weekend. With 60-plus options each week, you can choose from an ever-changing mix of high-quality meat, fish, vegetarian, WW recommended, and wellness offerings. Order now and get $110 off across your first 5 orders when you visit blueapron.com/unique.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur podcast with me and Jamie. How are you doing tonight, Jamie?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. I want to wish you a belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now, you had your radio show last night, your birthday celebration. How did that go?
It was a lot of fun. I did all songs from 1974 because that was the year that I was born, and the show is called A Podcaster Looks at 40, which was a take on the Jimmy Buffett song A Pirate Looks at 40. And it was a blast. It was a really fun way to celebrate my birthday. I was really lucky to have that live show fall on my actual birthday, so I was able to celebrate it with all of my listener friends.
Excellent, excellent. Now, Jen wanted me to also extend a happy birthday to you as well, so she said happy birthday too.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
She's a sweetie.
Yeah. Well, in speaking of Jen, today actually is an anniversary for us. This day a year ago, I flew down to Philadelphia and met her for the first time.
Oh,
So,
well, congratulations.
thank you. Yeah.
You know, that reminds me. I was so excited to talk to you about this because of the conversation that we had on, I guess that was the show before last, where we were talking about people meeting online, or was that last week?
2 weeks ago, it was the wolf one, I think, or maybe it was last week. I think it was last week. Yes.
I don't know, but anyway, we had that conversation, and there is a new show, a brand new show. It's a reality show called Love Prison.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Where they take two people that are dating online and they've never met in real life, and they throw them on into a house for a week, and they're only allowed to. They have no modern conveniences, no cell phones, no TV, no music, no anything like that, nothing electronic, and they're only allowed to be outside for an hour at a time for 1 hour during the day each day, and the rest of the time they're sort of trapped in this cabin together. And they're forced to get to know each other, and so then they sort of throw things at them too, like video clips of them saying things that are going to stir up trouble is basically what they're trying to do, and to see if these people will discover whether or not they really belong with one another.
Yeah.
And I thought that was hilarious, considering we had just had that conversation about how people these days are meeting online. You know what amazes me, though, is that I have actually watched this show. I've watched the first 2 episodes just to see what it's like. The first one, these people had been dating online for 6 months, so that's not a big deal.
Right.
But the second episode, these people have been dating online for 2 years. 2 years, and have never met one another.
Wow.
And have never done video chat or anything.
So they're seeing each other other than pictures, maybe.
They've only seen pictures.
Wow.
And they've talked on the phone. Like, how do you do that for
2 years? Yeah.
I just it's never, and I've met a lot of people online, over the years, and then met them in real life, and I don't think I ever could have managed to wait 2 years and then not be not only had they not met each other, but they weren't committed or anything. Well, the guy was committed. He hadn't been seeing any other women, but the woman, it turns out, had been seeing a lot of other
Oh, of
guys.
course. Yeah. One of them has to, right?
So I don't know. It's interesting. Just and but what I find funny is that I'm watching this show and God, these people don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Like they're doing it wrong, because they get to meet one another and they end up both times it has not turned out so well, and they don't really know one another, and they don't
Right.
know how to interact with one another, and they're really nervous around one another, and that has never been the case for me. I mean, by the time I meet someone in person
Hmm.
that I've been with long distance, that part is over. I mean, like that part is not an issue.
Yeah.
And I always just keep picturing, "God, I wish this show had been around back in the day, just because it would have saved me some money in in travel expenses
Hmm.
getting to meet someone. But I'm like, God, they are doing it all wrong. They don't know anything about the other person. How does that even happen after 2 years?
Yeah, I saw that. They had a clip of that on the Soup. There was a guy with a ponytail who was kind of crazy. Um,
That was the first episode. That's
that
really
was yeah, and so he was, and we were just kind of like, oh god, this is not, like he was like going up against the frosted glass of the bathroom while the woman was in there using the bathroom, and he's like, can you see my nipples and all that stuff, and
yeah.
that.
He was a lot to take in. He was a little like, woo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had our first meeting at Old City, or we met at the airport, of course. But then yeah, we weren't. Fortunately, we were able to go outside. The Wyndham Hotel in Philadelphia did not keep us in a prison. That worked out better for us.
That's nice of them.
Yeah, and I think the cameras too. I think not having the cameras that could add some stress too to the first meeting.
I guess that is true.
Yeah.
But it just it's not like they have cameras in their face.
Right.
Your typical reality show, these are just hidden cameras around the house. So but
Oh,
you can,
okay.
after a while, you could just sort of forget that they're there and go about your business.
Right.
I would think. I don't know.
Yeah, we
Um,
yeah, we don't know about all the cameras that are shooting us.
but right, yeah.
Yeah.
But they just don't seem to really know how to interact with one another,
Hmm.
and that is not something I've ever had an issue with. You know,
Do you think they screen for people that don't know how to interact to make the TV
Probably.
better? Yeah.
I'm sure they probably pick the ones that
Yes.
they think are likely gonna not make
They're
it
gonna,
to make it more
right.
interesting. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, these people, they're just crazy. Let's put them on the show.
Yeah,
You know?
that makes sense because you're right about that. Like, I mean, Catfish has people that have gone even more than 2 years without meeting each other, and of course, it turns out that's because one of them is catfishing the other. But
Mm.
it's an interesting thing when you think about going that long. And I know Jen and I talked about how lucky we were that we lived relatively close. I mean, I was flying out of the Boston airport, which is like an hour flight to Philadelphia, so that wasn't bad for either of us going, either way.
Yeah, flight wise, when I was with Patrick, it was only about an hour and a half flight wise.
Hmm.
And then it's just, but distance was pretty great. Like driving distance was a lot
Right.
different because he was in New York and I was in Georgia. But by the time you got on the plane, it was really only like an hour and a half on the plane to get there, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I understand. We didn't get to see each other that often. It was really only a week at a time, twice a year.
Hmm.
But it didn't take that long for us to decide. Like we either have to, because you can't really move forward until you do the meet in person.
Yes.
Because you just don't know. Like, do you want to? I just don't see myself spending 2 years before I decide that I'm finally going to meet this person. Because otherwise, what are you holding out for? I mean, this guy who has not been with any other woman in 2 years while he's
Yes.
been courting this woman online, that's a long time to put your life on hold and not know if it's going to work out. And incidentally, it did not work out. It worked
Right.
out. This one in particular worked
Yes.
out very poorly,
Yeah.
and I think it was all her fault. I mean, she was just kind of ridiculous, but he seemed like a really nice guy. But the upside of this is he probably, since this show aired, has gotten a huge response
Yeah.
because he's just a really nice guy, and so I imagine that he's probably gotten women like crawling out of the woodwork all over him now. So good for him. Um, but
Exactly.
I just don't see putting my life on hold for 2 years.
Yeah.
Before you know if it's going to work with someone, because that just seems a little bit insane You know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Jen and I were talking about that too because we're both also kind of the same age. We're all kind of the same age, and we were saying how the younger generation, they seem to be more equipped to just have conversations over the internet or have relationships over the internet, whereas I think people our age, we're not as used to that. We came of age before all of these things came out, and so for us, even though we don't mind meeting people on the internet, we feel like there's got to be, if it's going to be a romantic relationship especially, you've got to find a way to get together.
Yeah, there has to be more to it than that, you know. And of course, you're right. I mean, we came up during a time when you didn't meet people if you didn't meet them face to face. That
Right.
was just that. Those were the people that you knew. And I mean, you could have pen pals or whatever, but that's not the
Right.
same thing. Like you didn't, you just the people that you were in your circle of friends, the people that were the important ones in your life, the people that you truly cared about. Those were the ones that were in your face
Yeah.
and or at a reasonable distance. And so, I mean, I think you're right. It's probably a generational thing, but I just don't see having that kind of patience to. Well, the first episode, the one with the crazy guy,
Hmm.
they were in their 40s.
Oh,
Well, she was 39 and he was 43, 42 or 43.
wow.
So, but they, like I said, they had only
6
been
months.
6 months.
Yeah,
So,
not bad. I was going to say my anthropology skills were just thrown out the window there, right, Mr. Cultural Anthropologist?
no, I mean, 'cause
Boom!
you're right.
Right.
It was six
No.
months, and then they went ahead and did the meet, and so, just the 2 year. I was like, whoa, 2 years.
Yeah, they must have
That's a long
known. They
time.
must have known. Well, to segue here, speaking of 2 years, of the film we're going to talk about tonight, Shooter, though it was 2 hours long, felt like it was about 2 years. Am I exaggerating, or what do you think?
No, you're not. And I want to make a public apology for you. I know how you feel about your 90-minute rule. And when I recommended this film, I had no idea about the runtime. I'm not used to action films taking
Longer.
this long, and so I
Yes.
didn't expect it. And then when still didn't even discover it until I was watching the film, and I thought,
That it was.
when is this going to end? Like,
Yeah.
how long is this damn movie? And then I looked at the runtime. I was like,
Ooh.
the first thing I said to myself was, I am so sorry, Matt.
Well,
I'm
no,
so
no. To
sorry.
be fair, to you, Jamie, Ambushed, which took about, I don't know, like maybe a half hour. It was a little half hour shorter. Felt like it was a good hour and a half longer than Shooter. So I still think Ambush has holds the distinction of being the absolute worst and the hardest sit of all the films we've looked at so far.
That's true, and I'm glad
Yeah.
you're willing to take the bullet on that one.
Yeah, that was a rough one. Well,
One thing this did have is an amazing cast.
it had a great cast. Yes, I mean we have not only do we have Mark Wahlberg from Dorchester, who had a ponytail in the first scene, which was really exciting to see. I love seeing Mark Wahlberg with a ponytail. We had Mark Wahlberg. We had Danny Glover, who was in, for my money, one of the best sequels of all time, Predator 2. Uh, I love that one. We had Ned Beatty, who was not made to squeal like a pig. He was more like his character from the Rockford Files episode that he was on. Who else?
Wow, nice callback.
Did you
I
like
love
that?
the Rockford Files.
Yeah, he was great. He played like some kind of tough
My
guy.
ringtone for a while.
Was it the Rockford Files? Oh, that's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Huge fan of that show.
Yeah. Oh my God, love that. We
Elias Koteas.
Elias Koteas. That's what. Yeah, Jen was talking about him from an episode of The Sopranos, and of course I loved him in Crash. But yeah, he was.
I mean, he's been working forever.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in some kind of wonderful.
That was on last night.
Was it really?
Yes.
God, what a coincidence! That's weird.
Yes.
That happens a lot.
Hmm.
Kate Mara.
Yep. Kate Mara, who I thought was a poor man's Anna Kendrick, but I wasn't sure if maybe she has a darling Twitter account too, where she posts darling tweets that kids love and post on Tumblr.
I
Like
don't
Anna
know
Kendrick?
because you know how I am with Tumblr. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know, like Anna Kendrick. She's from Portland, Maine, so I can't get on her too much. The few Mainers that are in show business, I have to, give them a good fist pump. But yes, she posts these like darling little tweets, and like the Tumblr kids just eat that up. They just like post it between shots of pumpkin spice lattes next, among colored leaves and wooden tables and all the other stuff the kids love. You know.
Yes, kids love wooden tables.
They do. They love coffee on wooden tables. I don't know why. I have no clue. I've not figured this out, but they love that. I'm not kidding you about this. they if anybody else listening to this, you watch Tumblr or you go through Tumblr, for anything, whatever. And maybe I'm just following the wrong people. Jen would probably say that that's true. But we just see a lot of coffee cups, coffee mugs on wood. Starbucks pumpkin spice lattes on wood. It's just, yeah. But yeah. So we had her, Kate Mara.
Tate Donovan,
Tate Donovan, yes, yeah.
Justin Lewis.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, people just kept popping up.
Yeah.
Rona Mitra.
Rona Mitra, who was in film I reviewed once, Beowulf, with Christopher Lambert.
Yeah, she has a thing about wolves, I guess, because she was also in Skinwalkers.
That's right.
And what do you call
The Underworld?
Underworld?
Yes.
The,
Did you say underwear? The underwear
I was
movies?
I was trying to say anything but what I was supposed to be saying.
Right. Yeah. Oh man,
She may have been in her underwear. I don't know.
Oh man. Somebody, Ryan just said never got into Tumblr. Don't. Yeah, I mean, Tumblr. I can't be too bad about Tumblr because first, Jen. I found Jen through Tumblr, and second, there are some really great ones, some real great Tumblrs out there. But you got to sift through a lot of shots of coffee cups on wood.
On wooden tables.
On wooden tables, you got to. So, what were your thoughts? Other, we knew it was long, but what were some things about the film for you that didn't work?
There's a lot going on
Mm-hmm.
in this film. I felt like it. Okay, we've talked about this a lot when it comes to action films.
Mm-hmm.
That you have to be careful how much plot you
Right.
want to insert into your action film, or it's going to detract from the action.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a lot of plot in
Yes.
this film. I mean, every time you turned around, it was just something. It would just go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I guess maybe that's probably my fault that I wasn't expecting it to be that involved. I was expecting something a little more straightforward, but there were plots and I mean, well, apart from plot, there were conspiracies and assassinations and then you had issues with, I mean, lots of stuff.
Yeah,
So
it was
I had
just.
difficulty.
Oh, so essentially the paradigm in this film is what I've always called the blood fist paradigm. And the Blood Fist series, essentially the first two films are your classic martial arts tournament films. Actually, number 2 almost is a direct ripoff of Enter the Dragon, or homage, whatever you want to call it. And then part 3 is a prison film. And then pretty much from 4 through 8, they're all pretty much the same idea, where Don the Dragon Wilson plays this guy. He could be ex-CIA, cop, one of them he's a repo man, he could be anything. Who is framed for a bad crime. And it can be as little as a murder, as huge as stolen nuclear warheads or something like that. It could be anything. And it's him against the world, and he has to somehow fight his way through this and clear his name. And the difference between the Blood Fist movies and this is that, one, there are plenty of really great fight scenes because, Don the Dragon Wilson can fight. And usually the person making the film is a great fight choreographer. So every 10 to 15 minutes you get some guys in suits who are playing FBI agents who ransack a room, and Don the Dragon Wilson stumbles upon them ransacking it, and they fight. And he's got to beat the crap out of them and escape. It sounds crass, but it works so much better than this movie, which this movie tries to pad the Blood Fist paradigm. And make it into 2 hours, and try to make it more sophisticated when it's just more bumbling and more talking. And the opening was so boring for me. That whole him picking off Somalis. I started looking up Ethiopian restaurants in Philly because I was like, oh, Ethiopia! I love Ethiopian food. What are some places that I could go? So that's how I spent the opening of the film.
Well, interestingly, the first, because I actually had 2 tries watching this film, and
Right.
the very first time I did, I got maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes into it, and I said, I'm not feeling this right now.
Yeah.
And then I had to stop and put it away and then come back to it.
Yeah.
In order to really, and then I just had to force myself to sit through it. And so I totally get what you mean when you say that the beginning was really boring, because I just was like, already I am in this film in the very beginning, and I'm not really caring about what's happening right
No,
here. You know.
right, and it just gets worse. Like Jen and I talked I mentioned this to Jen because she missed this part at the very beginning. Mark Wahlberg's character. First off, he's kind of gross with his ponytail and his beard that he can't grow. I don't know what that's about. Like he goes into the woods in Wyoming to kind of do this. Oh, Ryan said he fell asleep trying to watch that film twice. That's why I had to watch it early in the morning this morning. I had to get up early, get some coffee in my system, do some grades for my classes, and then jump in because I knew a nighttime showing I probably would have been out. Um, but um, but one of the things that I mentioned to Jen was that he has this dog. The dog seems to be a really great guy, and he just says to the dog, "Hey, you're gonna be all right for a couple days, right?" I mean, really? You're gonna just so I'm supposed to root for a guy who leaves his dog alone in the woods in Wyoming?
Yeah, no, not happening.
Oof. And Jen made a point that I think would have probably saved this film if perhaps the dog had gone out on his own and met some other dogs and they had some dog adventures.
I would like to watch that movie.
Yeah, I
Good on Jen. I want to watch
yes,
that.
I was like, that's
Well,
perfect.
And what if he didn't come back? Which I mean, I guess considering what he thought he was doing,
Yeah,
he probably didn't see that as maybe he didn't see that as a possibility. But I don't know. I mean, it's not like he had a neighbor
right.
who was
Exactly.
going to come by and take care of the dog while he was gone.
Exactly.
And so I'm just like, that's kind of poor planning.
Yeah.
And you have to care about your animals more than that if you want me to care about you.
Exactly. I cannot have a throwaway dog. We have two cats, and they were.
5.
You have five. Yeah, and, I mean, like when my parents had cats, they were kind of outdoor ones, and they could do all right for a few days on their own, if you just left the food out for them. Whereas these two cats that we have, they've been rehomed a couple times, so you don't want to leave them alone for too long. They get,
Yeah.
upset. But, a dog, you can't really leave for more than a day, You really can't leave for a day, really, You've got to be home in time to let it, and I guess out in Wyoming, maybe you could leave it outside or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Maybe we're focusing too much on the dog. I don't know, but but that's the kind of thing that sticks out to me too. So I totally don't blame you for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're already off. You're already off of Mark Wahlberg
Yeah.
because he left his dog, and you're like, "Grr, I don't like you anymore." So
Exactly.
I hope you get
Yeah,
framed.
here I am with like this huge chunk of no action, and the first little bit of anything I get is the dog being left behind, and I'm like, whoa, hey, that's already bad. That's just, it's not working for me. So yes, and so then we just like you knew, I even though with Netflix obviously I can constantly check to see how much time I've got left, but you could just tell when the first plot point happens, which we know is going to happen. We know he's going to be betrayed. He's going to be set up for this crime. When that first plot point happens, you just look at it and you're like, geez, we got a good hour and 20 minutes left, and we've got
Yes.
yeah. And it's like, man, there's a lot of conspiracy that needs to be unpacked here. And I don't know how they're going to do this in any simple way that's going to keep any level of action in this film.
No, and then they bring Kate Mara in, who then that's a whole nother
Yeah.
thing, and
Yeah.
like, we didn't really need all of that. You
No,
know?
no.
We could have made this a lot simpler.
Yeah.
If because when we hit that point when he is like running from when he gets at the point where he gets injured
Mm-hmm.
and he's like on the run.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna wrap this up
Mm-hmm.
in like 20 minutes.
It should, yes.
And then that's exactly when I looked at the time, and I was
Mhm.
like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know. Oh, because that's the
What
thing.
else can happen?
Well, exactly. That's the thing with the Blood Fist movies is that when you look at it, you're like, oh man, there's a lot of conspiracy to unpack. You can look at the runtime and say, well, yeah, maybe there's a lot of conspiracy to unpack, but we've only got 45 minutes left, and we know of that 45, a good 20 is going to be taken up with various good fight scenes, and so that's what we get. Whereas here, I'm like, what are you going to do? What can you possibly do for, I don't know if I can handle all of what you're about to do here, and it was as bad as we could imagine. Like the ending, it had I don't know if you ever played Ninja Gaiden 2 for the Nintendo. So the thing I remember about Ninja Gaiden 2, and I've always talked about movies having what I call the Ninja Gaiden 2 ending, where it felt like you couldn't win Ninja Gaiden 2 because they just kept tacking on the baddie, like the end baddie, would like morph himself into another end baddie, and then another one, and so you had to fight like 3 or 4 end baddies at the end. And this is the same thing where I kept thinking like, okay, I'm done. No, I'm not done. Okay, I'm done. No, no, no. Now I'm.
No, you're not done.
Yeah.
You got like 25 more minutes of Capais and Danny Glover riding around in a car.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my. And then what was that whole scene in like it wasn't a courtroom, it was some kind of where cuz Mark Wahlberg allows himself to be arrested. Like, what are you doing? Like, he could do a year in prison in a federal prison for attempting to kill the president. That's going to be an easy sentence for him to handle. No big deal. And he's going to be willing to just take that time when he knows he's innocent. Because, why not? It's going to be easy. And they'll let him go just as easily as that when he shows that I don't know, messed with his guns or something. I don't know. It was just... The firing pins. Just stop, Just cut the film off, go to the credits. We're fine.
How many locations did we need? I mean, we were all over the place. We went from, was it Philadelphia?
We started. Well, we started.
We started.
Well, forget about Ethiopia. We'll go just within the United States. We were in Wyoming, which I don't know. Have you ever been to Wyoming before?
No, I haven't. No.
I went there once. When I was in Colorado, we just popped up I-25 and crossed the border into Cheyenne because we were like really late. We went to Rocky Mountain National Park and didn't have a lot of time left. So we just went across the border, stopped at the visitor center and a truck stop to get souvenirs, and then a McDonald's to grab a bite to eat, and then popped right back over to Denver. So that's my trip to Wyoming. That's my time that I spent in Wyoming.
Probably the way to do it.
Yep, I think so.
You probably saw everything there was to see.
Drink coffee every morning out of my Wyoming mug that I got there. A couple mountain lions on the. So we did that. We did Baltimore for a minute. Just long enough to see John Waters. Or not. Actually, I'm sorry. No, John Waters is not in this movie. Don't watch this movie thinking you're going to see John Waters. I don't want to do that to anybody. But Baltimore, D.C., then now we're in Philly, which I recognized a lot of Philly, and then Jen was able to, because she grew up here, she was able to be my tour guide and tell us a few more places that were in the area. So that was nice. As you can imagine, the chase scene didn't make any sense. It was in streets that made no sense. They just shot it up.
They wouldn't actually connect.
Right.
It was just random. And I hate when they, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because it really bothers me when movies do that. And it's like they like to pretend that no one who actually lives there is going to watch this movie.
Right.
Like, I understand that people who live in California and grew up there and spend all their time there may not realize that when you're driving through the streets of Philly that doesn't make any sense. It's not going to mean anything to you. I get that.
Yeah.
But there are people who live in Philadelphia who are going to watch that movie that takes place in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And they're going to notice that this shit doesn't make sense.
Right. I was trying to remember where she told me that where they were, Danny Glover and all of them were, where they were supposed to say that Mark Wahlberg had shot at the president on the Independence Mall area, which is where the Liberty Bell is and all that jazz. Really great place.
So even tourists will know about that.
They'll know where that area is. Yeah. Now the area where she was saying that she thinks it was shot was a few they have the Market Frankfurt L, which is kind of it's an elevated train that goes underneath. It turns into a subway when it hits the city and then pops back up. So you notice the guy that Michael Pena was underneath the L line there. She was saying she thinks that could be anything from Kensington to Frankfurt, which would put that probably, I don't know how many miles away from where the president was supposed to be. But I don't know how well snipers do from miles away. I don't know.
Probably not that well.
Yes.
Even if they're as good as him.
Right.
But I like to refer to Sleepaway Camp 3 whenever we're talking about this sort of thing, because Sleepaway Camp 3 was the beginning of that film was supposed to take place in New York City. New York City, which is a place that is known by people worldwide.
Yes.
Even if you've never been there, you know what New York City looks like. So in order to try to cover that up, they're like, well, we'll just show you an alleyway and a garbage truck, and here's a city bus.
Right.
It was actually filmed in Atlanta. The city bus was a MARTA bus.
Oh,
if
nice.
you know anything about Atlanta or New York,
yes,
you're covered because you know that MARTA's in Atlanta, and you know that New York has the MTA. They just screwed themselves hugely for millions of people.
Oh, man.
And that's just 2 states. So anyone who has any knowledge of those two states that live outside of those two states, they're gonna know that too.
Yeah.
And it always bothers me because I'm like, that's a fucking MARTA bus.
Yeah.
That's not New York.
How hard is it to get an establishing shot of New York City? Like,
You know what? I'm sure that there are stock footage
oh
of New
yeah,
York City buses
yeah.
all over the place.
Oh,
Just pick something.
I can
Go on the
imagine.
damn internet. Okay, back then they didn't have the internet. Or they didn't.
But you
do
didn't
that,
need
but,
it. You didn't. I mean,
You know.
the MTV Moon Man was stock footage. They had no money when they started MTV, so they just grabbed the moon landing, and suddenly that turned into the Moon Men that we know MTV for. That's all it takes. It's all public. They didn't have the internet. They found the moon landing footage. Yeah.
And seeing people are going to be like, yeah, you're too hung up on that. Well, if you're making a movie that's supposed to take place where I live,
Yes.
it's got to make some sense.
It can't be that silly. You can't. I mean, the road that they were talking about. He at one point I hear a police dispatch guy say, "Oh, he's on Columbus and Market." I've actually driven on Columbus. Or I've not driven. I've taken a cab. Jen and I were in a cab on Columbus and Market, driving me to the bus station the last time I visited her before we moved in together. So I knew that road, and I was like, "That's not the road. That's not the one that I was on."
Yeah, and what do they do? How stupid do they think people are?
Yeah.
They're just like, nobody will notice.
Yeah.
But then what happens in reality is that it pulls me out.
Yeah.
Because then I start thinking about all the things that they're doing wrong, and that just pulls me out of it.
Well, and this movie gave you a lot of time to think about what they were doing wrong.
Yeah, they did, because you didn't have anything else to do.
There's a lot of, there are a lot
And
of.
then we go from we have even more. We're not done.
Right, we go
We're
to
not
New
done with
Jersey.
the settings yet.
Yeah, we go. He takes the barge over to Camden, so now he's in New Jersey. He's in Camden, New Jersey, and then I don't know where the woman is that runs the hardware store. Is she in New Jersey as well?
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember that one. He goes to a hardware store because we do not have enough scenes of Mark Wahlberg dressing his wounds. We do not have. He just cannot tend to his wounds enough. We get the what does he use? A bicycle pump and needle to give himself a saline drip. I mean, like this movie. If this movie cared as much about the action as it did about the self, what do we call that? I don't want to say self-medicating because that means he was drinking. What's the term that we want for this? Is self-doctoring? I don't know, but I mean, I always thought Rambo overdid it with that, But this is just, I mean, I was waiting for him to just he did actually instruct her to how to surgically remove the bullets, right, Kate Mara?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, just don't shoot him. How's that? Just don't shoot him.
Then we have the snow.
Yeah.
We're on the snowy mountain, which, by the way, I do have to say that this film was pretty.
Yes.
It was really pretty.
I love the mountains, yeah.
It looked beautiful. The mountain scenes were gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I love I love his snow camouflage.
Yes,
Also,
yes.
it looked like he made it with his mom's mop.
Yes, and
that was pretty awesome.
They made
it looked like a Yeti coming at you.
Well, he was a Yeti, but they made sure that they got a popular sports clothing brand logo on one piece of the. So while it looked like he put it together on his own, he did have a little help from a popular sporting outfitter.
But I was like, what is this, a Yeti in the
Yes,
film?
I know.
Oh no, that's Mark Wahlberg.
Mark
sorry.
Wahlberg, yes.
But he did take those beautiful sniping shots
Yes.
from 3 miles away.
Yeah.
Where he took off Cateus' arm, which I thought
Yes.
was actually a pretty cool scene.
That was good.
That was really nice.
That was good. Yeah.
I mean, so the effects, I think, were successful. But then from there we go to this. We got the cabin.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, God, how many places do
Yeah.
we need to be? And
Yeah.
I swear that's the same cabin from the Travolta movie that we just watched.
And it might
I
be.
I
Yeah.
kept expecting Travolta to be coming out with his accent and drinking Jaeger.
Drinking Jaeger with Travolta. Yes.
He's gonna sit down with Ned Beatty because Ned
Oh.
Beatty's all there. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God. So maybe like Ned Beatty, he's so hammered. He's thinking that De Niro is Elias Koteas, and he's getting him confused with them. And that's I thought you died in the last scene there. Oh. Oof.
So yeah, while the film was pretty, I'll have to give them. And I believe
Yeah.
those were actual explosions. Were those real explosions, or was that just
Yes.
really good CGI fire?
No, no,
Because
no. Good explosions, but that brings me to another point. There's a blog that I follow, Exploding Helicopter. I can't remember the man who runs it. He's out of England, but he does a blog post on action movies where he describes the exploding helicopters, and he would have been so upset because we had two helicopter explosions, both were obscured by the film. The first one we kind of had a fade out before the helicopter explosion. Second one, it was just like napalm around it, right? So while we had some great explosions, especially of the buildings, the fact that they skimped out on the two helicopters was a little distressing for me.
well, I'm sorry for that. I
Mm.
I am. I will give them points for actual explosions, though, just in general, because let me tell you,
Yeah.
I just watched The Protector 2.
Hmm.
Have you seen that one?
I haven't. No, you mentioned it was on Netflix. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
it
it
is.
yet. Yeah,
And you're a Tony Jaa fan.
a little bit. Yeah, I haven't seen either of his movies. I haven't seen The
Okay.
Protector either, so I need to.
Basically, he has an elephant.
Hmm.
People keep stealing his elephant. That's the
Oh.
whole point. Like in the first movie, they steal his elephant, and then he has to go kick some ass. In the second movie, they steal his elephant, and he has to go kick some ass. And it's actually pretty. Like the fight scenes are really fun. Like I really enjoy them. However, there's this one scene where he's in a room, and this is in Protector 2, there where he's in a room and the the entire room is on fire. Like all the walls are flaming, and he kicks his feet up against one of the walls, catches his shoes on fire, and then he comes back and has these really amazing fight scenes with flaming feet. You know, which sounds really good, and it would look really good if the fire was real.
Yeah.
But the problem is the fire was all digital, and it looked so bad that you're just like, he's not in any real peril here.
Yeah.
Why should I be excited? You know, 'cause
Oh.
there's no fire. That's not really fire.
Yeah.
And so nothing. I hate digital fire.
Yeah.
I really do. It just, people made a living out of setting themselves on fire
Yes.
for film, and now it's just all those people are out of a job.
I know. We
All
always
those people who make Zell gel, they're out of a job.
they
All
got
the-
they got work in shooter though. They got work in shooter. A lot of them got work in
They
shooter.
did.
So
They did. So I give
but,
them props for that.
you know,
At least we had real fire.
I know. I agree with you because that was always a joke when we watched like 90s action films, especially like the DTV ones, where just out of nowhere you'd see a guy walking out of an area on fire, and you'd be like, "We paid for the flaming stuntman. We're gonna use him, damn it!" You know? And
Yeah, whether he needed to be
Exactly,
doing
yes.
that or not. It's like,
Yes.
look, we got him for another 30
Yeah.
minutes, so he's going to be on fire again.
yeah, it's like a western. It's like a western, and suddenly somebody comes out of the saloon on fire. You know? Yes. Now Ryan mentioned digital fire, and of course, one of the banes of your existence, Jamie, the digital blood as well.
Yes.
Ugh, I agree with you on that too.
I really can't. I mean, you know, blood is one of the cheapest. Or
Yes.
No, I scratched that. It is the cheapest
Yeah.
thing to do effects wise. You can. All it takes is some corn syrup
Yeah.
and some food coloring. You can make it at home.
Yeah.
You know, and of course there have been advances in special effects blood, and there are some really amazing products out there that clot like they're supposed to, that turn the right color, that have the right consistency. I mean, people have really been busting their asses to make believable special effects blood, only for these guys to go and do it digitally. And it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. I just can think of no logical reason why
Yeah.
you would ever have CGI blood.
No.
I don't get it. And
No.
it doesn't look right. It never looks right.
No, no. And so, I guess that's one thing we can thank this movie for. The problem is that we couldn't enjoy those touches that added a certain level of veracity, right? The flames, the explosions, the blood, right? We did get, really good looking blood when people got shot and things like that. The problem was we had so much plot that we were so bored to death that like the good things that we wanted from this film, there were a couple of good fight scenes, there were a couple, there was a couple of good shootout scenes, but
And so many people. There were so many people.
So
and
many
so many
people.
name people.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, they had a great cast.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you have that many
Yeah.
name people in something like this, it
Yeah.
just means that there's that much more stuff that's going to be going on.
Exactly.
And what the hell was the budget on this film is what I want to know, because for them to pull off a cast like this, for
Hmm.
them to pull off the runtime like this, which
Yeah.
the locations and the settings,
Right.
and the explosions, and I mean, this must have had a really huge budget,
Yeah. Now,
which makes it that much more of a shame that I was so bored.
I know, because it's just like, and they said it was based on a book. Now,
Right,
books
yeah.
can get away with the kind of plot exposition. Books can get away with the kind of slower rolling beginning that movies can't get away with. Movies can't. You can't. I think that's part of the reason why it's always difficult to really make a good film adaptation of a book. You know, it's been done. I think of The Grapes of Wrath was a really good one, but that's a whole different animal compared to when you're trying to adapt a book that I guess was maybe action based or was supposed to be maybe kind of
Yeah, it's Point of Impact by Stephen Hunter
right.
was the book that this was based on, and yeah, I mean, I picture it. I mean, I've never read it, but I picture it as being well, basically like a conspiracy action thriller book, like
Yeah.
a Born Identity kind of thing.
Clancy-esque, you know.
And so yeah, I mean, a book can get away with all of that if it's
Yeah.
well written,
Yes.
but then when you try to cram it all into a film. I mean, it's clear that it was difficult to cram it all in because
Yeah.
they had to make it 2 hours long.
Yes. Yeah.
But and I don't mind it. I personally don't mind a 2 hour long film if I'm entertained the entire time.
Yeah.
But I just really and I actually really like Mark Wahlberg.
Mhm.
I enjoy him quite a bit.
Mhm.
I don't need to see him this much at one time.
Yeah.
That's what I discovered watching this film is
It's-
because whenever he was doing things where he wasn't talking,
right.
then it was fine. But
Yes.
then he would have some dialogue, and I was like,
Oh.
oh, don't do that.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, he's just and the other thing too is like like whereas like you think of somebody walking like a marine or somebody who like walks like a soldier. You notice like that he walked like he was doing Good Vibrations. He was like walking up the set of Good Vibrations or something. Like he had a little bit of a strut to the way he walked. And the shoulders kind of dipped a little bit. The whole thing. It is funny like him like rattling off like military speak, like with the Dorchester accent, like he's supposed to know what he's talking about. Whereas like it kind of feels like I don't know, like Richard Gere in a Kurosawa film where he was like speaking Japanese phonetically. Yeah, like he's doing a great job speaking Japanese, but you can tell he doesn't know what he's saying.
Right.
Yeah, and he didn't know what he was.
There were several scenes where where Wahlberg was just spewing stuff, and I keep getting distracted by
Yeah.
his delivery.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I'm constantly distracted by that, and it keeps taking me back to the one character that I think it actually worked for was when he was in Fear.
I was gonna say Fear.
And that I think he was brilliant in that film. But,
Yeah.
but as it turns out, he wasn't really. That's just how he is.
Yeah.
And so, but it just
Yes.
happened to work really well for that character.
Yes.
So, but now, like watching this, I kept thinking of that character. I'm like, this is the same guy. It's just saying different stuff.
Exactly. He's always the guy from Fear, no matter what film he's in. It, the big line from that one, I remember I taped that one off of pay-per-view when I was in college. And I showed it to my friends because I thought it was such a funny movie. And there's that one scene where he's about to kill, I can't remember the guy's name, the actor that played the father in the film.
Oh, William Peterson.
William Peterson. He's about to kill him, and he goes, "Daddy, you will forever hold your peace." And we would just say that. We would say that to each other all the time. We're like, "Daddy, you will forever hold your peace." And then Reese Witherspoon stabs him in the back with that pipe thing, and he has this look on his face like somebody like did something, like he smelled something funny. Like he had this kind of like woo kind of face, and we would play that in slow motion afterwards. It's just like.
Oh, there came your accent.
There was afterwards. Yeah, I did a little afterwards.
Yeah, I really love Fear. I love
It's a
that
great
movie.
one.
That's
Yeah.
a fun movie for me.
Oh, Alyssa
but
Milano.
I can't help it whenever I hear him like
Yeah.
try to be, and it's always when he tries to be
Yes.
serious.
Yes.
Like I'm trying to seriously deliver
Yeah.
this bit of dialogue here.
No.
It immediately takes me back to that film because that's exactly his acting has
Yeah.
not changed
No.
from there to this. It
Oh.
has not.
There's this comedian, Dan Van Kirk, who he works with the Sklar brothers a lot. Like he does their podcasts and everything. And he's from Chicago actually. He's not anywhere near Boston, but he does the best Mark Wahlberg impression. He's hilarious. So he'll do this routine where he used to do this routine for them where he would call their show and leave a message, and it was almost like he was leaving a video diary as Mark Wahlberg. You know, he'd be like, "Yeah, I was in the store the other day, and I saw this guy. I was like, I know what you're doing. He was wearing sweatpants. I knew he was trying to steal something. So I went up to him. I said, Sir, I know what you're doing. I know what you're trying to do." And he looked at me, and he left. And it's like, that's the end of it. That's the whole thing. And he says like tons of... They had it...
God, though, you sounded just
The
like
Mark Wahlberg. So
You
Danny...
sounded just like him in Fear.
Like a
That's exactly what he sounds in Fear.
So you think I could get a role on CSI sometime? I wanted to be on that show. I could be a murderer. I could be a dead body if you want. Danny Glover?
Really good.
I don't know if I should trust Danny Glover. I mean, I really liked him in the Predator movie, but in those Lethal Weapon films, he was really good and stuff, but I just kind of feel like I shouldn't trust him. He's been a little too close to my dog. I think I might have to shoot him. I don't know. Oh, man. Mark Wahlberg.
His range, woo.
Yes. Oh, boy. Yep. Mark
So that
Wahlberg.
being said, well, funnily, I just said I enjoy him, and then after
There you
all
go.
of that, then I'm starting to think, do I really?
Do I enjoy him? You enjoy the idea of him. That's what it is.
I think so. Yeah.
You gotta add, Ryan said you gotta add "Hey bro" every other sentence. Yeah. Hey bro.
Hey, bro.
Remember when the police officer? He noticed the police officer's gun was open, like the thing, the holster thing was open.
Mhm.
Why you got your holster open there? What, are you gonna try to shoot someone? What are you doing? What are you doing with that? Hey bro, don't you want to lock that? I think you want to lock that, don't you? Oh, look at the weather. The weather's really nice right now. I think the wind might be perfect. I think he's going to try to shoot him now. Yeah, you should get out there. Go to the church or something. He's going to try and shoot him now, Danny Glover. Danny Glover. He's going to try and shoot him now.
Don't give him words to say with ERs on the end. Don't do it.
No, the ERs don't work. He's just, Oh my God, yes. And I would love to see some interviews with him talking about Donnie and Donnie marrying Jenny McCarthy.
Do you ever watch The Wahlburgers?
No, I haven't. No, I've heard about it, but I've never watched it.
I didn't even know the show existed, but apparently it's won Emmys and last season. And I was like, when I saw commercials for it this season, I was like, what? I didn't even know that was a thing. But so apparently it was not only on, but it won Emmys. I didn't even know it existed. But so I've been
It's won
seeing
Emmys.
commercials for it, and it's just the brothers talking with each other.
Yeah. What do you want on that burger?
We do burgers.
What do we do? We do burgers. What do you want? We want to put on that burger.
I didn't know that even existed. Look at him. That's hilarious.
I don't know if your kids should eat those burgers, Jenny McCarthy, because they haven't been vaccinated. You never know what's in these burgers.
You're gonna give them autism.
You might give them autism. These burgers might give your kids autism.
So yeah, Mark Wahlberg with serious dialogue.
Yes,
does not work.
Doesn't work.
It
And
doesn't
now
work.
that's bringing us back to the Blood Fist thing. Serious dialogue with Don the Dragon Wilson also never works. So you know what the Blood Fist movies did? They cut it out.
Action.
They had action. You know who produced the Blood Fist movies was Roger Corman. So that kind of tells you, a guy who knows what he's doing with movies.
Well, he knows what sells.
Yeah.
He knows that people like tits. He knows that people like action. He knows that people like blood, and that's what he's gonna.
Yeah.
That's what he's gonna give them. He's not gonna waste their time with plot.
Yeah. No.
Please don't get the impression that I don't like films with plot. That's not what's going on here. It's
No,
just
I
that,
agree. It's got to be good plot.
This is something we have discussed at length on this show, and it's like if you want to have an entertaining action film, then you can't have too much plot because it drags down the action.
Yeah.
It slows everything down, and when you have this many people and this much stuff going on,
All these
it gets
moving
really
parts.
confusing.
Oh.
And then it becomes muddled.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what happened here.
Well, that's
It
the
was
thing.
muddled.
Yeah, we're watching a Marky Mark movie, but instead we've got all our scenes for the huge chunk of the middle are just Marky Mark, tending to his wounds, while Michael Pena, who we didn't sign on for, Michael Pena is a great guy, but we didn't sign on for scenes of him doing detective work. And it wasn't even really detective work, it was in office. like looking at computers and laying on the floor drinking coffee early in the morning detective work. It wasn't even like he was hitting the pavement or talking to anybody. So, it was that the whole thing, all the plot was just so sautéed in wrong sauce that it was just none of it worked.
Sautéed in wrong sauce. That's awesome.
Yes.
You got Danny Glover.
Oh God. Oh, he was getting too old for that shit. He was. Oh God. See,
and Ned Beatty going, "Fuck you."
yes. Oh, Ned Beatty was just like, he was probably. I wonder if he had in his contract no squeal like a pig boy jokes on the set. Like that's. Yeah, I'll do your movie, but you can't be making no squeal like a pig jokes and no Roseanne
Well, I'll
references.
get drunk.
That's right.
Hell yeah, I'll get drunk.
Yes. Oh man.
And if I had known, I would have gotten drunk too.
Yes.
And then maybe I would have not thought that 2-hour runtime was so draggy.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not even like it's a bad. I don't think the plot is bad. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad story. I think it was just too much.
It was too much. It was too much. There was a lot that needed to go. There was so much of that could have gone. I mean, I'm trying to think where we'd start with cutting things out. I mean, obviously the end, we could have ended that movie right there on the mountainside. That would have been enough.
That would have been fine with me.
That was 20 minutes right there. We didn't need, if we were going to do the whole thing, if you wanted to have Kate Mara in the film, you collapse her character in with Michael Peña's character and put them together. You know what I mean? If you need to have a female character to work with Mark Wahlberg, you just collapse her right in there with Michael Peña, and now she's a detective. You could have actually just had Rona Mitra play both of those roles, and she would have been fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
I think there were a lot of things there that were going on. He didn't need to have that many wounds. We're fine watching an action film with a guy who gets a flesh wound on the shoulder and can do any. We're fine with people getting shot in the legs and they can walk on them 5 minutes later. I'm okay with that.
We're fine with people getting hung up by their calves and then being able to run 3 miles through the woods after.
We are. Yes, we were perfectly fine with that. There was nothing wrong with that. And especially a man in his 70s, which I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. After we know that he's been set up, after we know that this whole thing was a conspiracy, I don't feel like we needed to know every little single in and out of why.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I didn't need to go into why
Yeah.
the Ethiopian?
Zimbabwe? I don't. They didn't know where they were. When you talk about oil in Africa, it should have been like Nigeria or something like that. But they didn't know where they were. They were supposed to be in Ethiopia, but none of the people in the film were Ethiopian. So I don't think they knew where they were.
Who was the guy that actually got assassinated instead of the president?
He was supposed. Yeah, I want to say he was from Zimbabwe, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay, well, we didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't personally need to know every second of why he was actually, because that didn't matter to me. Because just the point was that he was.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to.
Yeah.
I just didn't need to know as much as they fed me.
No, it was too much.
Way before, they're still shoving the spoon down my throat, and I'm like,
yes,
I'm good.
Yeah, the Wahlburger. You're like, no, I don't need that. You come on, eat another Wahlburger. Come on, you only had one.
It's Wi-Fi themed.
You can't come here to Dorchester and get one Wahlburger. You got to have at least 2. We can't have you here just have one. Come on, Danny Glover. Danny Glover, you got to have at least 3 Wahlburgers. You're a big boy. You can have them.
Get too old for this shit.
I wanted the Predator to come in and save us. See, imagine if instead of Ned Beatty, it was the Predator, or maybe a Predator played by Ned Beatty, who was the behind the whole conspiracy.
See, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, and
then the doggy adventure film. Put that together.
The doggy adventure film. Jen was on point with that one. Because I told her, I was like, he abandons his dog, and she's like, what? You leave him? She's like, what if? And she described because you can see him getting out there in the woods, kind of going around, and he sees the other dogs that are out there, and suddenly they all band together. And she was saying they band together and they get Wahlberg because he left them, But maybe they save Wahlberg.
Why? He left him.
Yeah, because he's loyal. He's a loyal friend.
Yeah, because dogs do that.
Yeah.
He was the Ethiopian archbishop.
That's what it was. And he wasn't from Ethiopia. None of those people were Ethiopian. They weren't. They weren't. You know. And the thing is, like, now I know some. I thought that some of them were supposed to be Somali, and I wasn't sure. And so I was thinking, like, well, you know, if you really need extras that bad, you could go to Lewiston, Maine, or Portland, Maine. There are large Somali communities there, and I'm sure they wouldn't have minded being in a Marky Mark film. You know. But you know, I mean, you can't just, you know, like.
You could have even just filmed it in Maine and called it Philadelphia.
Called it Philadelphia. You know.
No one would know the difference.
No. No. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, so I think this one is a resounding no, right? We're giving this one a resounding no.
I'm just,
I know.
It's a slog.
Yeah.
It really is. I just felt like it
Yeah.
took a lot out of me.
Yeah, it was
to make it through, and I wouldn't blame anyone if they told me that they started watching it and they just said forget it, because that's interestingly though, it has the average rating on Netflix is 3.5 stars.
Ugh.
So I was actually expecting some excitement.
Yeah.
I didn't really get a whole lot of that.
No.
So yeah, I'm saying, for people who listen to this show, who are likely action fans,
Yeah.
and want some action in their action films,
Yeah.
then I'd say you're okay if you leave this one alone.
Yeah, and I think anybody that sees the cast, because like you said, this is a very enticing cast that we have here. Also, stay away. You want Danny Glover, watch Predator 2. You want Mark Wahlberg, check out Fear. Look at Ryan said.
It's the same guy.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Ryan just said, "Come on, bro. You like the movie, bro. Come on. Help me with my movie." Oh my God, Mark Wahlberg. So we're giving Mr. Wahlberg a no here. Well, we got about 5 minutes left. Jamie, do you want to tell us you have any projects coming up that you're working on? Anything coming down the pike, I guess is what I want to say.
Sure. Well, currently we're still going through. Well, actually, the first episode of our Friday the 13th retrospective was just released for Devour the Podcast.
Okay.
I am right smack in the middle of doing a Phantasm retrospective on Grave Shift Radio, where I'm a guest. But that's a really fun show. It's a manly man show. If people want to check that out, those guys are great. That's Ryan, John, and Bo, and we're doing a Phantasm retrospective and a Nature Gone Amok retrospective. So we have recorded the first 2 episodes. So episode 1 was Phantasm and Day of the Animals, and then the second episode was Phantasm 2 and Grizzly. So, and I love Nature Gone Amok films, and I love the Phantasm series. So that's a pretty fun show if people want to check that out. On Skeleton Crew, we just did. We're about to release reviews of Oculus and Cabin Fever 3 Patient Zero.
Nice. Excellent.
That's a mess.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I gotta give it to them though. They give you the gore. Like they go straight for the gore on that one. But if you're looking for anything more than that, I mean, if you want to see two women infected with a flesh-eating virus having a fight on a beach, and to the point that one of them's arms just fall off mid-fight, then that's the movie for you.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something deeper than that, don't bother. But if you want just the gore, then go for that.
That sounds like a Seth MacFarlane Quagmire joke on Family Guy. Like, yeah. Ooh, Peter, I love play.
If you want to check out the archived version of of any of the Insomniacs playlist, including last night's where I played all songs from 1974, you can go to legionpodcast.com and look up the Insomniacs playlist, and you can get all of those. You can download all of those right from the site. That one, unfortunately, is not on iTunes because I assume that they didn't actually tell me why they said no, but I'm going to.
Oh, they said no
because I play a lot of
because of the music.
A lot of real music.
Oh, okay.
They're like no. But if you wanted to get those, then you just go to legionpodcast.com and you can. I have a really good time with that show, and so I think that people would get a kick out of it. On Evil Episodes, we're about to talk about The Den, which is a movie on Netflix, all about an internet predator. So, and then can't remember what the fuck else I do.
now,
this show. And
I was gonna say tonight. Are you gonna be on Crosstalk tonight? you gonna do your call in tonight, or?
Yeah, I usually do. John usually calls me, and I have no idea what we're ever going to talk about. He just throws stuff at me, and I anticipate I will be doing that tonight as well.
Yeah, I listened to last week's crosstalk. Well, we got a minute or so left here, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I know you called in. So listen to, definitely. You've got John coming up here right after this with music, and then what have we got? Wrestling and crosstalk.
I presume that's what the
I think
lineup is. I actually am not 100% sure tonight, but I think that's what it is.
All right, excellent. So check all of those out. Now, also you can get a hold of me at DTV Connoisseur on Twitter. Also, my blog is Matt Movie Guy. I'm hoping to update, do another post for you soon. I'm halfway through the images on Ninja 2, so hopefully we're going to get there. And Jamie, you can check Jamie out on Twitter at Maven1974. So thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have a great week.
Yeah, see you next week.
All right, goodbye, everyone.
Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.